Lack of forearm pronation range of motion can potentially contribute to elbow pain in the throw. We're going to talk a little bit about why that is, but also how you can assess your range of motion and then improve it if you have some muscular tightness that's limiting it. Max Wardell, overheadathletics.com, coming at you guys with another video about pronation and why it's important and then how we can improve it. So pronation is super important during the acceleration phase of the throw because an athlete that doesn't have adequate pronation won't be able to face the ball in the intended direction to get it towards the target. A lot of times we see athletes who actually supinate or turn this way, and they ended up dragging their arm out and around as they go towards the target, and then this subjects them to medial elbow injuries like UCL tears. Little leaguer's elbow is a really common one, and then they also put themselves in a pretty precarious position of their shoulder where they're actually dragging through a position we call the apprehension position, and a litany of injuries can occur as a result of putting their arm in the wrong position, and sometimes it's as simple as what I like to call video game hand or texting hand. They're always in supination, playing on their phones and stuff, and then they never actually access that pronation range of motion. And it's really easy to check. One of the points of this video is to just show you guys a simple way that you can check. And you can take a bat, here's a PVC pipe, but really you can use whatever you have around the house. And I put my elbow into my side. I have my elbow bent to 90 degrees. And from there, I make sure all my fingers are tight and my wrist is flat. From there, I can rotate, and this would be supination, and then I will rotate as far as I can into pronation, keeping the elbow in. And a lot of times with my younger guys, I'll actually stabilize their elbow in so that they can't do this and compensate, because obviously you can see the angle of the pipe. The angle of the pipe just gives me a good estimate of their range of motion. So instead of using a goniometer, which we use in therapy all the time, I can just use a rod or a pipe and kind of get the range of motion. I want to make sure it's balanced on each side so that there's not weight pulling them into it and that they go into it kind of at equilibrium in terms of balance of the pipe. And then from there, I should see a nice horizontal line. If I see a little tilting like this, that's generally enough for the throw. But a lot of times I'll tell an athlete, okay, turn your palm down, and then it's right here. And we know that their pronation is limited. Now, why it's limited, we can investigate a little further. What I like to do is I have them here, and then I take and I just press on it. Now, do they compensate through the wrist, or does their wrist stay flat? A lot of times you'll see guys where they actually tilt their wrist and do that, which is a combination of movements at the wrist and not actually in the forearm. So I try to get them to here. I feel what I feel, and then it's always good to try to just do it manually. Now, if they feel a stretch back here on the forearm, kind of in the middle of the forearm, but on the back side, so here, then I would say that's likely a muscular stretch. If they feel it in the wrist or towards the elbow, we're probably dealing with more joint-related things, which are not going to improve with the stretch. And sometimes athletes have anatomical variances. So sometimes we'll see guys who they don't get any farther and it's a hard stop. That's just how their bones are formed, and they will not get more pronation. Trying to achieve more pronation can lead to more bad than good. So we only prescribe a stretch when we need a stretch, and that's when the muscle is tight, or sometimes the capsule, but we won't get into that. So when the forearm muscle, specifically the supinator, is tight, we'll go through a little stretch we call the bat stretch, and we'll show you that right now. All right, so here's the bat stretch. I'm also trying out my new wide angle lens here, so if it looks okay, let me know in the comments section. And if you guys like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and I'll make sure to post more on this topic because, you know, pronation and pronatory exercises are great for throwers who actually put a lot of stress through their forearm musculature. So in regards to the stretch, I'm seated, lean forward in a chair a little bit. I got a bat. I can choke up if the bat's fairly heavy. I got my forearm in line with my thigh or in line with my femur, and my wrist is flat. Maybe that's the best way of showing you guys. It's flat. I'm not doing this and pushing down here and just stretching the structure of the posterior wrist. Forearm nice and flat, fingers tight, and from there, all I need is a couple finger pressure, and I can even use the weight of the bat. And if your forearm's tight, you're gonna feel a good stretch right here. Sometimes I get guys with tight forearms and they end up letting their legs creep out, and you'll see the bat can get way down to the ground because you've changed the angle. So now you've done this instead of that. Fingers tight. I can also compensate with loose fingers, but fingers tight, wrist flat, let the weight fall to the floor. I'm not trying to actively fight it up this way. It's not an active exercise, but it is a little bit of an active stretch. And I've had guys where they actually take a TheraBand or tape, wrap it around their hand here, so they don't have to use all of their flexor muscles to hold it. And then from there, I just hold the stretch. So great little stretch for tight supinator muscle or limited pronation range of motion, which is why you're watching the video, because that way it'll allow me to use more of it in my throw and decrease the likelihood of dragging my arm through a poor position in the throw. So make sure to give our video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every single week, usually in the middle of the week. I try to get them out on Wednesday, but for sure we're getting them out there every single week. So make sure you guys are subscribed and actually hit the bell so that it notifies you when we post a new video.